Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World, where every word matters. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guest on this next interview. Rosen Zhelyazkov from the center-right GERB party has been appointed Bulgaria's prime minister following 4 years of political turmoil. Leading the Citizens for European Development of Bulgaria, the incoming government pledges to uphold the rule of law and pursue a pro-Western trajectory. As Bulgaria navigates its internal challenges amid a divided global political landscape, what lies ahead for the country and the region? Joining us today on TVP World to discuss this is Ivan Vejvoda, Permanent Fellow from the Institute of Human Sciences. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Thank you for having me.
So Bulgaria's been facing significant political instability since the year 2022. What has been the underlying cause of this?
Well, certainly one needs to remind the viewers that Bulgaria has had 7 parliamentary elections in the past 2 years, probably the most unstable parliamentary regime in the world, I would say, which has also led to a declining turnout in the vote. In the last election, I believe the turnout was around 35%. The reason is that the governments have not been able to respond to citizens' demands for a stable economic situation, and one in which government would be able to show that there was responsibility in addressing things such as high-level corruption and, in fact, a situation in which the people are not satisfied with the way that their demands have not been met.
So, like you mentioned, we are seeing a lot of political turmoil within the country. Do you think that the election of this new prime minister that's backed actually by an unusually broad coalition is a signal of the country finally going to a more stable political kind of environment, or is it just to kind of hold the coalition together because we can't have an election every 3 minutes?
We can only hope that that is the direction of this government. I would say that given the, of course, elections and governments depend on the type of electoral system. Here there's a proportional system, and no party over these years has been able to garner a sufficient majority not to rule without a coalition. And coalitions have been, as we have seen in this case, unstable. Several parties have been necessary to be able to create a majority. In fact, this government is a minority government. I believe it lacks 5 seats in the parliament, but a party that has not joined the government has said that it would support this government from the outside, not being in the coalition itself. So you are right to point out to the possible instability, but I think if I can put it very colloquially in a manner by saying that there must be some level of embarrassment in the major political parties that over these past 2 years and after 7 elections, they are unable to find the necessary compromise to pull the country forward. It must also be said that Bulgaria has been a stable partner in the Euro-Atlantic alliance, both a full NATO member and a full EU member, supporting Ukraine in its effort to resist the Russian aggression, has been delivering weapons as well. And so it is seen as a reliable alliance member, unlike, for example, currently Hungary, with regards to the war effort. And one should also mention, and I think it's important, that Bulgaria, as Romania, has joined the Schengen agreement, which means that there are no more border checks between these two countries and other EU members, which means that Greece is finally linked up with borderless crossings all the way from the south of Europe to the north of Europe.
All right. Do you think that there is a possibility that this coalition goes the way of a lot of similar coalitions that we've seen across Europe, where they were able to come together, push it across the finish line during the election, but as soon as they get into power, because of the disagreement and kind of the bifurcation in their beliefs, starts kind of falling apart?
Well, given what's happened up till now, it is not easy to predict exactly the way things go. I think there's a willingness, certainly, on the part of the leading GRB, the GERB party, to go forward in this situation and to give people a sense that there could be stability, but it's anyone's guess how long this coalition will last.
And one of the things that I find interesting is Ursula von der Leyen's optimism about Bulgaria's future. And she is kind of, again, optimistic about the pro-Western, pro-European path that Bulgaria seems to be taking. Can the government realistically deliver?
I think it can, as I mentioned previously, Bulgaria has been a reliable member state of the European Union and of the NATO alliance. That has been very significant, and that is why it has, if I can put it that way, flown under the radar, given that it has not created turmoil in the Euro-Atlantic Alliance. What has not been visible to many in Europe who have been following the political situation is the internal instability and the grave situation with unchecked corruption. There have been many protests over these years of the Bulgarian citizens because of the involvement of characters, of oligarchs, who have wielded immense power because of their financial assets. And they have been, there's been attempts by citizens really to put a handle on these internal developments that have not been conducive to a fully democratic economic governance in the system.
Right, like I said, there's a lot of kind of internal instability. We're also seeing economic pressure as well into the factoring into this. Do you think that this kind of, well, this political unrest is something that could eventually push for some sort of reform going forward?
Absolutely. Bulgaria is slated to become a member of the Eurozone and introduce the currency of the euro. It has been preparing for several years. They have reached the necessary criteria to join the euro, and this government and the coalition members of this government have said that they want to go forward. There has been skepticism among a part of the citizenry that the introduction of the euro could lead to a rise in the cost of living. But my guess is that Bulgaria will join, which means that they will, in that way as well, contribute to the economic stability by being part of the Eurozone.
And do you think that would also be, well, I mean, the European Union with the integration of Bulgaria will be able to influence it somehow when it comes to dealing with the situation, like you mentioned, with the corruption, with the oligarchy? Do you think that perhaps their EU aspiration will push some sort of reform to perhaps stabilize the situation?
I think we can hope that things will go in that direction. Bulgaria has made efforts, certainly, and the fact that they are also recipients of significant EU funds for their economy in dire economic situation, they will have to follow the rule of law to achieve those funds. They have been able to do that. They also have to reach a number of standards in curtailing CO2 emissions to be able to reach the criterion that is necessary for the receipt of those funds. It also must be stated that Bulgaria is an important energy hub, that it is a country through which the Turkish Stream gas pipeline goes. They have connected interconnector, gas connector with Greece, which has allowed them to wean themselves off Russian gas to a significant extent. But they also have a very important oil processing plant on the Black Sea, where a Russian company and where Russian oil is coming through. So they are part of this bigger energy policy where Europe is trying to move forward on liberating itself from the dependency on fossil fuels from Russia.
Right, so like I mentioned, there are several criteria that the country will need to meet and perhaps is working on right now, be it economical, political, or environmental. So last but not least, looking ahead, because we are talking about the new government coming in, what are some of the key indicators to start watching and looking out for to determine whether Bulgaria's current trajectory will finally lead to stability?
Well, I certainly think all the things we mentioned, all of the above, so to say, will be significant to see whether this government will finally begin to address the issues of corruption more head on. I think it will receive the support of citizens if that is done. If the government is slacking and not proactive in that regard, I think that will create a disheartened public opinion that could lead to instability. So there much hinges and behooves the government to move on those issues, because ultimately it is all about pocketbook issues and whether people feel that their situation on a daily basis in the supermarket, in shops, is such that they realize that prices are such that they can afford a decent livelihood.
Right, so after so many rounds of election, a government is finally formed and the ball is now in their court. Thank you so much for breaking all of this down for us. Really appreciate it, and thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Again, thank you for the invitation.
Cheers. And thank you for watching this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.